there, and what did you like most about the way your team played?
Well, as you said, it was a 49-21 game and moved us to 6-1. And, we're certainly happy to get the win and improve to 3-0 in conference play. But, going into the game, we knew that it was going to be a very difficult test for us, and it was. And I think you have to give Stony Brook a lot of credit for that. We jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and, they came right back, cut it to 21-14 at the half. And then, we had to continue to grind it out in the second half. And it was a very physical game on both ends and both sides of both sidelines, I guess. And, we prevailed in the end by, outscoring them in the second half 28-7. I just thought it was a really good day overall for our squad.
Question for you from Jake Masson. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning. What's up, Coach Cal? How are
Hi,
you?
Jake.
I just wanted to ask, maybe could you talk a little bit about, Frankie Weaver, as I anticipate, I know you mentioned 3 to 4 days for an update on Derek Robertson, so this would be like what, day two? So I don't know if there is that, but I wanted to look ahead and just what are Frankie's maybe strengths? What are the things you really like about him? And what does he do that's similar to Derek? And maybe what are the different skills that he has and brings to the offense?
Well, I think he's got a big arm. He even probably has the biggest arm on our team. He's the biggest from a physical stature standpoint of all of our quarterbacks. He's highly intelligent. And for him to come into the game as he did in his first college football action, and I thought he performed at a very high level and led us for the entire fourth quarter and a good portion of the third and did a really, really fine job.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
So it's after the injury to Derek, we've talked about so much about your offense, but your defense in the second half really came up big. 5 sacks, you forced turnovers, 4 turnovers, including the pick six by Ryan Russo, and then the other interception by Jaden Jones, which put you, at the 2 yard line. Talk about just the performance from those guys and what your defense was able to do.
Well, I think defensively, the story of the day was, forcing 4 turnovers that led directly to 21 points. I think, yeah, you saw a unit that was very opportunistic. It's a unit that's still searching for the consistency that we quite haven't found yet, but we're getting a lot closer to it. The unit is maturing. As you know, it's a very young group, and they're not perfect, but they're starting to make game-changing plays. And in the last 2 weeks, they've done just that, turnovers that have set our offense up in positive field position, or as you mentioned, scoring touchdowns themselves. I think the unit, played extremely hard. We got good play from our guys up front and Josiah Graham and Lamont Lester, who each were involved in 2 sacks. And then you had Spencer Kispaw, Jaden Jones, who were tied for the team lead in tackles at 11. Jaden Jones also had the interception that brought it down to the 1 or 2 yard line. And then the other linebacker, that Ryan Russo, had the pick six that took it back. So I think we're starting to see a lot fewer explosive plays than we saw earlier in the year. And we're seeing a group that's starting to gel and come together probably just at the right time.
Was there any sort of, I don't want to say motivation, because I know that those guys are playing hard on every series, but after Derek goes down, was there any feeling from the defensive guys saying, hey, we're gonna hold it right here, and let the offense do what they do?
I think you saw that from our entire team. The entire sideline knew that we had to rally behind Derek. Our leader was not going to be on the field for a good portion of the second half, and we had to start executing at a high level in every phase of the game. And I think we saw our team do just that. Rodney Nelson had 141 yards on the day, so it's his sixth time in 7 games over 100 yards. And we got great play from our receivers and Josh Derry and TJ Spate. And really, whether it was Frank Weaver in there or Derek, those guys didn't lose a beat and didn't skip a beat. So I was very happy with the way our team in general responded.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that receiving group, and they've been really talented. They've had great years all year, but their ability to, it seemed on Saturday, even when Derek was in there, to go up and make plays in high point balls and box guys out. Just thought they had a really big day of being able to keep the defense on their backs.
They did, Rob, and we had 8 different receivers catch passes on Saturday. And anytime you can spread the ball around like that, I think it makes it that much more difficult to defend. As I mentioned, Josh and TJ kind of were the leaders with 7 catches. But all of our receivers got into play. Max James had a huge catch on a third down. play, a 3rd and 11, I think it was, where he went up and got the defender on his back and made a really good catch. And our guys are catching the ball and running with the ball after the catch extremely well right now.
That Stony Brook offense, we had talked about it last week with Chris Ellis and Dempster, the weapons they had on offense. You guys were able to do as you said, four turnovers, you can kind of keep them in check. What was sort of the game plan? What were you able to do to make that happen?
Well, I think, one of the things we focused on was, not letting Dempster get loose and run the ball as he would normally like to do it. He was still just under 100 yards. He had 19 carries on the day, but didn't have that big damaging run that would hurt us. But consequently, you take that away, you have to give up something else. And, Chris Ellis was able to run the ball fairly effectively on us. But we just wanted to contain them, not give up a big play, keep everything in front of us as best we could. And I think for the most part, we did a decent job on that. They've got some talented players, and they did get loose and make some big plays on the day. But I think ultimately, what we were able to do from an offensive standpoint and the turnovers really helped us on defense.
On the flip side of that, yeah, you mentioned the total that Rodney had, but for a good chunk of the day, it was hard sledding for him, but he kept going, and then finally got the big one that to break it open with a 73-yard run. Just talk about what it takes to keep pounding, and then finally finding the hole.
Well, we knew they would be a very, very difficult team to run the ball against. They're very stout in the defensive front seven. We knew we were going to have to do a great job in our offensive line. And I'll be honest with you, they gave us a lot of trouble early in the game and for the majority of the game, to be honest with you, until the very end. And we found the going very difficult. We're plays that we would normally get maybe 5 or 6 on, we were getting 1 and 2 on. And you can't really do what you want to do when you're getting 1s and 2s. But I think, Rodney broke the run in the 4th quarter. I think he went for 73 yards for the touchdown. And that kind of put the game away for us.
Your team on the road on Saturday as you head to Hampton, as you've taken an earlier look at Hampton, what are some of the challenges they present for you?
Well, they've got really good balance on the offensive side in terms of the run and pass. The quarterback, they've used a few different guys throughout the season. It looks like number 16 is going to be their guy. He's a Syracuse transfer. We've got another running quarterback who's extremely difficult to bring down. And I think their receivers all have very, very good speed. They've got number 0, 7, and 11, all guys who are averaging over 10 yards a catch, all guys who can have very, very good speed. And again, I don't know if it's just that we're small or what, but we play another huge offensive line. And they're going to be very difficult to have success against. And, defensively, they pose some problems. They've got 2 very, very good linebackers that have combined for, I think, 125 tackles between the 2 of them through the first 8 games. And they play very, very good pass defense on the back end.
Before I let you go, I just want to touch on last week, the NCAA playoff committee released their initial rankings. You guys ranked number 9, which is quite a compliment. Just your comments on that news and how did you address it with your team?
Well, we're excited by it. I mean, obviously, to get named in the top 9 is a feather in our players' cap. And I told them, guys, that's great, but it's all about what we do this week. We want to go 1-0 every single week. That's our mantra. And if we can go 1-0 this week and finish out the season that way, we'll be where we want to be at the end of the season.
All right, Coach Cal, thanks as always.